kind of society? And also we can say the same thing about ourselves. What we are going to be like? We have to really have a very strong and resilient and rich imagination to imagine ourselves, imagine our society after this crisis. I guess. I'll just tell you one thing here. This is one of the most popular Japanese writers who passed away actually 10 years ago, unfortunately. He has, Inoue, he has a very nice words here. Civilization tells us how far we can go, and a culture tells us where we can stop. It's as if so far, for a long time, we have been talking about how far we can go, right? Far, further and farther. But we lost a wisdom, profound wisdom that tells us where to stop. Moderation as the essence of culture. This is another way to define culture. It is a structure in which the constraints of the natural environment, the region, or the community are integrated into one's own society as moderation. Culture is by definition local, communal, ecological. So to re-embrace all these constraints and the limits, these three words that start with S become very, very important. Small, slow, and simple. Small, slow, simple. And of course, many ancient wisdom, traditional wisdom, all over the world, including, of course, India, tell us this: the wonder of smallness, slowness, and simplicity. Of course, small is beautiful is a famous term, and the title of the book by E.F. Schumacher. Slow is beautiful. I mimicked this title, and I entitled my book Slow is Beautiful. And also, simple is beautiful. We can apply E.F. Schumacher's statement to simplicity and slowness as well. So, as Mira explained, I met Indian friends from Cuckoo's forest school at the Economics of Happiness conference. I have been quite active in it, as Helena Norberg Hodge, that you already are quite familiar with. Okay, so let's Wait a minute. Let's end this here. I think I spent enough time. How do I come back to you? I'll stop sharing. Okay? Am I there?
Oh, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions, so I'll read them out. Uh,
Too
I'm gonna
bad.
combine. Sorry.
Too
Sorry.
bad that I cannot hear their question directly. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is from Dayanidhi. The coronavirus will change the human lifestyle. I think it's very hard to come out from globalization, especially low income people have to live with globalization because there isn't enough money or education otherwise. Is there any way for them to live in this new world?
Not, but before talking about, before wondering whether it's possible to live in the new world. No, first you should think that you are the one who is going to imagine and build this new world. You are the person who does it. I know. Of course, it's COVID-19 crisis is causing so many problems, and many people who are less privileged are in a harder, and harder situation because of this crisis. Um, but as I say, this could be uh, an opportunity to start imagining what is possible. And first, it is a great opportunity to understand or think, at least think, what is the most essential thing in our life? What is the most important thing in our life that we cannot sacrifice? Um, we feel, sometimes we feel overwhelmed that um, we are taken away so many rights and freedom and privileges. But wait a minute, how? Please examine what are the most essential things in it. So I think this is a kind of a very important test, uh, examinations that we are going through to redefine our system of priority. Um, when I talked about the smallness, slowness, and simplicity, um, this is one way to remind ourselves um, what the important things are. For instance, time. We have been busily um, putting our time, in order to make money. See, this is the wonder of modern economy. They managed to link um, time and money, right? But this is a crazy, crazy system. We have to liberate. We have to liberate time from money, right? So, for instance, because of the lockdown, maybe we might be separated from friends, but maybe you might have more time with with your family, your brothers and sisters. Okay, uh, why don't we take this opportunity as a sort of encouragement to re-embrace, re-appreciate this kind of close relationships that we have been tending to neglect.
So I think following up on that and the idea of
Mm,
coming back to the individual, there's a question from architect Satya Prakash Varanashi.
mm,
We keep hearing we need to do this, we need to do that, etc., etc.
mm.
Lot of many themes and ideas. But as an individual, I can't act upon majority of ideas on what we need to do. What is the one thing I can start doing tomorrow morning?
First thing I think is meditation. Meditation, and just remember, like maybe close your eyes and feel your breathing. Like air. How fortunate we are that we are breathing. You know, if we start to appreciate this air, it tastes so good. You can enjoy, you can learn enjoying breathing. It's like that. I talked about the family, right? We were so forgetful about the families. We take family for granted, just like we take air for granted. Oh, by the way, maybe the person who asked the question, right, mentioned about
Not
education
really.
and finding
Yes.
jobs.
Yes. Before that. Yeah.
Some people are very worried about it. Like we are now stolen the opportunity of education and opportunity to find a good job and stuff. But this is a great opportunity to re-question the entire education system. How have we been educating ourselves, by the way? As teachers, how have we been trying to educate young people or children? This is a great opportunity. See, the education is most responsible for um, people, making people neglect what is most essential. Education is promoting even like economy that can destroy natural environment, you know, and also education has been always sort of uh, disregarding, disrespecting farming, the most essential thing for our life, no? Farming. Without food, what do we do? And also, education has been neglecting environmental crisis. Without air, without the clean water, what do we do? So I know this is a hard time, especially for young people. They might have, they might be very irritated and very nervous about, or even fearful about what's happening. But your courage will come by going back to these basic facts of life.
There's another question from Priya. what made you work in this area in the first place? And kind of adding on to that question, maybe what? Oh, did you hear that? What made you work for this in the first place, like in this realm? And also, is this something that you've always kind of worked for? How were you as a child?
You mean
In Keibo,
walking?
working, working towards like the slow movement and
No, I don't think I understand the question. What the question really means.
oh, so she's asking,
Sorry.
what made
Mm,
you to sort of start working towards the slow movement and like the sloth movement and slow
mm,
living. What made you sort of come upon this? And also kind of adding on to the question, what was the evolution like? Like how were you as a child, and what were those seeds or the sparks that kind of
I see. I see.
come through?
Okay. Well, as a child, or a young person, I was quite dissatisfied with the society and the place where I was growing up. I mean, it was in Tokyo. I was born in Tokyo, and there was a time of so-called miraculous economic growth. Everything was going so fast, and the people are so busy, so busy. Everybody was, in a way, they looked quite excited about making more money and become rich. But I didn't like that. You know, I understood what they were doing, but I said, well, is this all to life? I mean, life is just this. I mean, I came to this world, just to do this. So this was a very, in a way, a very profound kind of a uh, question or doubt that I had, and many things happened after. And when I was working as an environmental activist in South America, when I encountered sloth, an animal, everything came together. Everything came together. So I said, "Oh my goodness, like it's about time." I really want people to think about the time. What is time, by the way? Time is the only thing you can say that this is mine, this is ours. Okay, you might feel that, oh, I own this and that, the car and the house, and the land, but are you really owning it? Is this really yours? Right? Philosophically speaking, no, ownership doesn't mean anything. That's one thing Vinoba was always saying. What is ownership? But without ownership, still there's a one thing that remains. That's time. This moment, I'm sitting here, I'm talking to Mira and other friends, this is the only fact that I have. So in that sense, I can say, well, this is my time. But also it's your time, not exclusive. Right? I don't need to own this time so that the other people cannot own time. No, it's everybody's. And I'm living my time. But now, what we are doing is so crazy. We are now exchanging, we are selling my time to earn money, to earn living. In this crazy time itself is living. So why do we have to give up our time to acquire living? And people call me dreamer. Well, it's fine. I'm a dreamer. So that's how I become um, slow life person. But of course, my slow life is quite busy, by the way, because I have so many things to do. I have to do something about this environmental crisis. My goodness, I mean, like my generation, what kind of Earth, what kind of planet are we leaving to the next generation or the generations that are not yet born? I feel responsible. Of course, I cannot assume this responsibility, but the term responsibility, responsibility means it's an ability to respond. I want to respond. It's my responsibility.
So there's a question kind of related to that,
Mm.
you're wanting to take on that responsibility. This is from Pavani. As I started trying to live sustainably, I started looking at everything around with a critical eye of what is the carbon footprint of this particular item, or how can I make it less stressful on nature. Sometimes it sort of
That's,
adds, oh, I'll repeat the question. As I
sorry.
started trying to live sustainably, I started looking at everything around with the critical eye of what is the carbon footprint of this particular item, or how can I make it less stressful on nature. Sometimes it sort of adds pressure or stress in my life, taking away from the experience of living a sustainable life. So I want to
Ah,
know what your suggestion is.
that's a very beautiful question. I really like that question. Um, we are quite contradictory, you know, but I guess we have to learn how to enjoy it, how to enjoy it, and trust that humans are by nature quite small thing, slow thing, and a simple thing. We don't need that much. It's not that difficult to satisfy ourselves. It seems very difficult to satisfy ourselves because new needs, new wants are being created constantly, by big industry or by education and you know, by the world. So of course it is hard. Sometimes myself, I myself feel conflict in me, contradiction in me, but it is like almost a religious training to enjoy life. To enjoy life is a lifelong training, you know. And this is what the real education should mean. I really respect the person who questioned raised this question for his or her sincerity, to do something about um, to reduce footprint and and contribute to the sustainability. One, first, I want everybody to trust ourselves, oneself, right? And also, please try to rediscover the your own community. Okay, when you see yourself as an isolated person, when you see yourself as an activist, but quite isolated, like fighting alone, that's a problem. No, we have friends, we have people with similar aspirations all over the world. You know, please remember that in Japan too, there are many people who are so concerned about this and try to do things. So please rediscover ourselves in a community. Okay, and also let's try to rediscover culture. When you look back a bit, cultural wisdom once was everywhere. And in India, I think, compared to Japan, it's still, the cultural heritage is still there, still alive. And let's talk to older people, or sometimes the books, and rediscover cultural values, cultural ethics, uh, cultural ecology, cultural ecological science, traditional ecology. It's actually, even you can find it in religion too. So you are not alone. Even if you are full of contradiction, you're not alone. We are all with you.
The next question has to do with Japan. So Soundarya asks, how has Japanese culture integrated so much with nature and art and doing things to help you cope with the crisis that's happening? And is society there holding on to these, or do you feel things have changed over time?
Yeah, actually, not only India, when I travel abroad, many people have this very strong image that Japan is quite nature conscious nation, and like environmentally we are like doing quite well. Well, I know why you think so. Of course, traditionally, like Japanese culture had lots of ecological, very strong ecological aspect, you know. Um, but modern Japan, contemporary Japan, is quite anti-nature, unfortunately. Um, and I don't want other nations, including India, to see Japan, contemporary Japan, as a model. Okay, sorry to disappoint you, um, but myself, I'm more and more interested in uh, traditional wisdom, cultural wisdom that is so rich in Japan, and in history especially. But even today, when I go to countryside, remote areas, you know, it's still there. So And so it is a challenge to really kind of collect all these sort of residues, what remains from tradition, and reassemble. It's not to restore the past as it was. No, reassemble so that this can help our cultural creation. We are all cultural, so-called cultural creatives. You are cultural creatives. Let's admit that our culture is in bad shape. You are the ones who now recreate culture. And this is a crazy thing to say because, probably in the past, there was no generation that with this task, this huge work to rebuild culture. But in a way, we are. This could be a very interesting time. This could be a very creative, imaginative time. And I know I'm not a very good student of Indian civilization, Indian culture, Indian tradition, but I know that India is probably one of the richest places in terms of traditional wisdom. Right? You agree with it, no?
Mm, so you've been teaching for many years. Um, is it have you kind of inculcated the movement of slow living in the pedagogy itself? What has your experience been in that?
Oh, pedagogy. Um, it's to me university. Okay, I was teaching for university for quite a long time, right? But in a way, very often I felt that it's too late. University, because university is already after brainwashing for so many years, since small childhood. But I kind of tend to define college education, university education as detoxification and rehabilitation, and uh, cleansing, repurifying process. And besides classroom education, I already stressed outside activity. My favorite thing was uh, rice farming. Okay, last 20 years, every year, actually, this time, May, June, okay, beginning of a rice season. So half a year, all my students worked on the farm. Of course, natural farming, no pesticide, no nothing, organic farming. So I think instead of um, recruiting young people to military service, we should maybe make it uh, law to so that every young people will go on the field. You know, I don't want to impose anything, but like Vinova, okay, Vinova's education was that. The earth, best teacher is the earth. Slowness. Again, my definition of slow is relatedness, connectedness in a very meaningful way. I'm not talking about, like connecting this way. Do you know what I mean? Meaningful connection. In order to have any meaningful, essential relationship with nature or thing or other humans, you need a lot of time. You need a lot of time, right? And it is a slow process, and you cannot avoid it. So again, we have to learn how to enjoy the slowness. From farming to child, raising child with boyfriends and girlfriends, family, community, everything. Or recreating forest, everything. It's a slow process, but a joyful process.
There has been a lot of people say, that this child is a slow learner, or is there anything wrong with that? It's always been a question personally for me as well. Like, what is slow learning, and why is that detrimental to learning itself?
Yeah, slow learning meaning respect each person's pace, right? So we have to embrace every person's pace, and nobody ever have proven that fast learner is better than slow learner. And also it depends on what you learn too, right? So we have to shift from a constant quantification to quality, quantity to quality.
Would you speak a little bit about your experiences working against nuclear weapons and reactors?
Oh, you know that we experienced the Fukushima accident. You know that, right? So after Chernobyl, now we have Fukushima. You know the Japanese government has been trying to erase the memory of Fukushima. It's been only 9 years, right? But the government is so thorough about neglecting and shutting down all the information, coming from the what's happening in Fukushima. Nothing has been finished. Fukushima disaster is still right there. Emitting so much toxic stuff, so much radiation constantly. And please know that Japanese government is now getting ready to release all the so-called wastewater, highly contaminated, with high radiation, into the ocean because they exhausted all the space, like the huge tanks are all full. I mean, thousands of big tanks are full now. There's no place to go. So now they want to release into the ocean. And COVID, actually, this crisis, COVID-19 crisis, is being used to cover up what's happening in Fukushima, right? So I know that nuclear power is now part of India too. But if you're not familiar with it, that's the worst news for you, you know. And it is essential that the new world that we are going to imagine and we're going to build, there's no space for nuclear weapon, nuclear power, nuclear waste. Of course, Japan has to do something about this waste that is already there. You know, we have to be very, very intelligent. How to deal with this. But beside that, if you haven't started, if you haven't gone to that far, it is not too late. Never too late to stop it, to reduce it. Okay, stop where you are.
There's a question about what you think of the Gandhian way of life, and also maybe or maybe not connected to that. You've translated a number of books by Vinoba Bhave. One, what was it like trying to bring the essence of what he was trying to say? He speaks about freedom and all of that. What was it like trying to bring that essence into a whole new language?
Oh,
And could you also share some of the books? Can you show us some of the books that you've translated?
Satish Kumar, right? Satish Kumar is Vinoba's disciple, right? He's the founder of Schumacher College. So my education about the Vinoba is through Satish. And this is a book that I edited. I translated and edited.
Can you hold it up slightly? Further up.
Oh, I see. Like that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, this is Be the Change. Okay. Gandhi, Be the Change. That's one of my favorite slogans, Be the Change. For a long time, I have been an activist, but I was always busy making changes in the world. But in a way, slow is beautiful. When I embrace this slow notion into my activism, there's a time when I realized be the change. Everybody, right? Be the change. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Vinoba. Well, in this book, one chapter is about education. education. That's one very important thing, education. And the second one is localization. There's one chapter about the localization. Be local. I think this is the one of the core of Gandhiism to be local. And village is like a little small country. So they envisioned India as a kind of a alliance, a big alliance of small villages, small village republic. Yeah, so localization is, of course, is great inspiration from Baba. And his life work, walking. This, like a walking is like another thing which is so disregarded and uh, despised even, right? Walking is like a slavery, regarded as a slavery. And we have been inventing all kinds of vehicles. And now, like we want to travel with the light of, with the speed of light or something, like really eternal, faster and faster and faster. But walking is the freedom, I think. That's another universe um, message.
I have a few more questions. Yes, if you could touch upon like the Gandhian way of life
Mm.
and what that means to you.
Way of life. Um, One thing that I did is I have been to Bhutan, remote village in Bhutan many times, and in a way I helped the people to restore, bring back all the traditional cotton culture, right? Traditional spinner, right? Cotton spinner. So this village can now produce cotton and make it into. They have the whole process to make clothing. Yeah. So when I was involved in this, I'm still actually involved in this project. But, in Japan too, we started to a little movement of making using telka and spin cotton backpacks. Well, not only cotton, spin ourselves. Yeah. Um, you know Gandhian philosophy more better than me. I'm not in the position to teach you about Gandhian philosophy. Um, well, I guess be the change. Be the change is one big thing for me.
Another question is, we feel a crisis now that it has hit close to home. But
Pardon?
we feel the crisis now that it has hit close to home. But the crisis has been there for much longer. It's just that more people are consciously experiencing the effects of it now. How do we look at finding opportunities in the immediate crisis of this virus, as well as the larger picture, the crisis that we've been facing for decades?
Also, very good question. Immediate situation. Well, it depends on each situation, eh? The person. Like myself, I see this as a great opportunity for myself to enjoy everyday life. You know, very quiet. But every day I try to go to this nature park nearby and do some exercise there, do some meditation there, and some writing. So this, like, until a few months ago, I couldn't find the time for this, but now I'm finding it. So this, but each person has a different situation, depending on where you live and how you live. I can't generalize it, but I think anybody can find something like that, your advantage. But whatever you do, please, remember that most important thing is your imagination and the creativity. Okay. Even in imprisonment, even if you are in prison, okay, if you're creative, if you're imaginative, I think you can create a meaningful life. You can spend a meaningful time. You can say that the present time is my life. You can still say that if you have a very strong spiritual strength. So please be creative and please find, all kinds of new ideas, new ways of doing things, and let's share them with your neighbors, with your friends. And look, we are using this high technology, and I really appreciate it. Of course, the same technology can be used by quite vicious way. I understand that, and this could be used for big money and to enslave people, even, or to control people, rule people. But while being very careful with it, let us take advantage of this technology too, and let's help us. Let's help ourselves to connect, communicate. And the big challenge is to clearly see the big picture. What Helena Norberg Hodge says, big picture. This is not easy. You have to study. This is education. This is a time to educate yourself. Let's study about economics, how it works. This is global economy. crazy thing, you know. And um, you realize how much we are dependent on, things coming from China or things coming from the other side of the world, and you know, and some things are such essential things, including food, and this is crazy, right? But until a few months ago, many people, I mean, great majority of people, firmly believe that this is the only way. You know, you cannot do otherwise, right? So this is, well, again and again, I say same thing. This is a great opportunity to realize that, hey, food has to be local. You know, and India is such a wealthy country in that sense. Okay, so rich, so wealthy that you cannot even, you don't need to rely on money. That's a new definition of wealth. That's a new definition of richness. So this is an interesting time. Very, very interesting time. Let's study. Let's learn. I'm much older than you guys, but I'm learning. I'm going to learn a lot. So please, you, um, it's a prime time for you for learning.
There's a question about Masanobu Fukuoka and how his works have affected you in life.
Ah, yes, another hero for Japan. I mean, it's very interesting. Many when I go outside of Japan, many people ask me about Fukuoka Masanobu, but in Japan, like my students, ask young people. Nobody knows who Fukuoka is. See, this is what the education has been doing to us. Farming, natural farming. That's bad news, until a few months ago. Now, different. More and more people in Japan too are interested in farming. More and more people are now buying seeds, vegetable seeds, and now they're starting to grow something. And of course, the earth, the earth, you know, is our nurturer. It's not that we do farming. Actually, earth, soil, air, water, that's the farming. Okay? We in a way, we try to be a partner in it, in this great production, that the earth is capable of. Yes, Fukuoka's time is now. And thank you for remembering Fukuoka and continuing his legacy in India.
Definitely. Do you think that today's youth are optimistic and aware of protecting nature and enriching nature?
Um, but this is a very hard question. Like I admit that I become very sad, angry, especially when I hear young person like Greta being so sad and angry. I too, like my heart aches. Yes, but if I'm a pessimist, my attitude is, like I cannot afford being a pessimist. Like um, there's so many things that we have to do, and we still can do. So spending time being a pessimist, it doesn't make any sense. We can't afford. I can't afford it. Especially I belong to this most destructive generation maybe in the world. Um, yes, we can transform the pain and sadness in ourselves into a positive energy, you know, and let's keep on going. And also, don't forget, time is your time. Time is my time, and it's up to me how you live it. There's a freedom here, you know. It's a fundamental freedom here. Um, so let's enjoy every moment. Let's appreciate every moment. So again, going back to the meditation. Meditation is such a precious thing, you know, as fundamental as a food, as fundamental as water. Even a very short time every day, a few times if you can. Let's be, oneself and remember that you are breathing air, you know, and you are alive. And what else do we need? What else? Okay? So let's enjoy life. Please enjoy life.
So there's a question you mentioned that teaching at the university level, it's it's almost like trying to strip them of what they've already learned. Like it's a process of unlearning, a process of purifying. Um,
Unlearning. That's the term. That's the term.
so, what are your thoughts on educating much younger children?
Ah, yes. The most important thing, I believe, for children today is to stand barefoot on the earth, on the soil. Um, spend time in nature. Nature deficit syndrome. Not only children, I think, most of the people, especially people living in the big cities, they are suffering from this syndrome, more or less, more or less. And I want just the children, young children, to be in nature and learn from nature. Human teachers cannot do much compared to that. We can only assist, maybe, help, support children learning from nature. Yeah.
Um, so I'll ask the last question for this session. Could
Yes.
you recommend 5 books and maybe 5 films or documentaries that um, that you recommend for like the youth?
Wow, I didn't expect that. Children or like
Children. So a lot of people in this session are also like 20s, 30s, that kind of age. But I'm sure things that apply for children apply to them too.
yes. Well, I cannot recommend my own book because they are not English much. Well, actually, there's one book, no, 3 books in English of my book. Yes, one book is called "The Other Japan." The Other Japan. If you're interested in Japan, this is a kind of old book, but I think it's still very relevant. The Other Japan, the other side, of Japan that you don't know too much, you don't hear too much, right? About indigenous people in Japan, about um, people, the discrimination, racism in Japan, about the environmental issues that you don't hear about, and about the remote areas that the people don't usually go, that kind of thing. So it's a light, like it's an easy book to read, I think. The Other Japan. Um, I wish I could donate this book to Cuckoo Forest School. Next time, next time when I see you, I'll give you a copy. And and also Momo, the book by Michael. And have you heard of it, Mira?
I haven't. No, but I'm
Uh,
going to look it up.
that's a beautiful book about time. Time, right? Our society is invaded by time thieves. They are in disguise, but one of the neighbors might be a time thief. Anyway, um, very often, actually, teachers and parents are time thieves. Okay, and many people have read, I think, the Little Prince. Little Prince. That's another one of my best, my favorite book. Um, Most profound teaching from Little Prince is the definition of love. Love is wasting time for the person or for the thing. Wasting time. Okay, that's third one. Fourth one. Um, Vinova's book. Well, the Vinova's book, edited by Satish Kumar, is called "The Ultimate and Intimate." The Intimate and Ultimate. Yes, Intimate and Ultimate. It's a small book. Of course, "Moved by Love" is a very famous book, but um, this one too is very good. Um, another Well, there are so many books. Oh, I cannot I cannot name one book, but one author I learned a lot from is David Suzuki. He's one of my heroes, actually. Actually, because I met him, I think I became an environmental activist. I think he's a Canadian biologist, ecologist, and broadcaster. He runs a very well-known long series, nature series called Nature of Things. So look up David Suzuki, and if you can find a book called "You Are the Earth," this actually is written for young children like teenagers. But I have been using this textbook as a textbook for first year college students. You Are the Earth. That's good. That's five, right?
Yes, I think so. All right. So I think that we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Keibo. I think it's
Yes,
been a real eye opener.
my
Really,
pleasure.
just a very hopeful start to the day and the days to come as well. And I'd like to share another image from the Economics of Happiness conference.
Mm.
Give me a second. Are you able to see it?
No. Where is it?
It should be on the screen.
Do I push somewhere? Attendees? No,
Oh no, nothing. It should just pop up on your screen. Let me just check.
I don't see. I don't see it.
Okay, just a minute. I don't think my screen is being shared. Is it now?
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Oops, sorry. So this is from the conference
Oh, I'm
last
there.
year.
Satish G is there.
Yes. I think this is everyone who spoke and participated.
Yes, yes.
They're all from the Cuckoo family.
Manish is there? I don't see Manish.
Uh, I think he's at the back there.
Manish. Anyway, he was there somewhere.
Yes. So yeah, thank you so much. And I
Yes,
also
and it's one of my dreams to visit forest because no Cuckoo's forest too one day.
please do. Yes. And yes, I'd also like to thank Yoshiko Kawagishi, who helped contact you, and also Helena Nauberg,
Yes,
who sort of helped make all of this happen. So
yes,
it's been really enriching. And I think I speak for everyone who's attended.
yes.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Thank you very much.